Yo, welcome to Crate 808, the 90s hip-hop podcast that can't stop hitting you up in the head with some 90s nostalgia. And today we've got a great interview coming up with Kwame Kwaten from De-Influence, and he's going to be talking about Tribe Called Quest's Midnight Marauders. But before we get into it, I've got my man Ray Ridge over there from Perth. What are you saying, Ray?
How's it going?
Before we jump into any hip-hop, what, Ray, has been your least hip-hop thing in the last 24 hours, bro?
This is probably in the top 5 actual least hip-hop things that anyone's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
So today we were, me and my friends in the police, were dismantling a cannabis grow house.
Fucking...
just so many unsubscribes from that moment, wasn't it?
Yeah. So fun vacuums galore, right?
Yeah.
Taking your weed. Mother Earth gave that to us, mate.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I already know I'm not going to get on with you now.
I agree. But my employer upholds the law, so I'll be like, okay, I'll do this in exchange for money. Thank you.
Okay. That is the least hip-hop thing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
That is very least hip-hop.
Oh God, it's actually a little depressing.
I was going to say, kid, you doing that is easily least hip-hop than what I did. What have I been doing? I've been listening to a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival. I've been listening to a lot of Creedence at the same time prepping for fantasy football that we're both in the league. So yeah, it's those things combined feel very non-hip-hop. So naturally, I thought Creedence are one of the best bands of all time, and I had to listen to Down on the Corner is a fucking banger. And then I was just went on Who Sampled just to see, what kind of Creedence samples are there? Mate, there's been a Creedence sample for Down on the Corner by MC Paul Barman featuring MF Doom with Prince Paul. It's a banger, by the way. It's a banger. Hot Guacamole. I'm sure there's loads of people out there who love it anyway. But Hot Guacamole is actually a banger. And my least hip-hop thing turned into my most hip-hop thing like that, my friend.
In an instant.
So, in an instant.
You're going to have to check it on the playlist. So I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, man. Definitely. There you go. So, big up the sample corner heads. We've got an early sample taste there in the podcast. But Ray, we've got Kwame coming up. We've got Tribe coming up. Before that, though, mate, and I know we want to dive into all the other things, and we've got a mailbag section coming as well for all you people that have got in touch with us. Yes. Ray, a certain Nas dropped an album, mate. King's Disease.
Yeah, he did.
Brave to name your album after gout. I think that's the most 90s topic most people can talk about is gout. I think a lot of 90s heads are dealing with gout. Just stop drinking the Red Stripe, I would say. And King's Disease, Nas. What are you saying, Ray?
Yeah, The Cure.
Yes, absolutely The Cure. Yeah,
that's kind of all I've got to say about it. And the thing is, I guess Nas is really he's caught up in this, the trouble with having made Illmatic.
Mate, that's so long ago.
No, I know it is. But
I don't even think that's his.
Yeah, but it's inevitably every new album, you're like, all right, so you made arguably the greatest hip hop album of all time. How's this one compared to that? And it's like, it's not Illmatic though, is it? I'm not saying that either because it's a completely different context, isn't it? You're talking about someone who is, what Illmatic's about being the from the perspective of someone going through his struggles in New York. And now it's a guy who's a very successful rapper and businessman. We all know about the other stuff, that investment portfolio and all that business. So just The Cure is my only takeaway from this, and the rest of it was it was just all right. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed listening through to it, and I can see he's got some Big Sean, Lil Durk. There's a lot of
The Firm, Anderson Paak.
AZ's verse is all right. Is it outstanding? No, it's not. It's just all right, isn't it?
AZ's sick. I like that verse.
It's all right.
Well, mate, I'll be honest. I think when, first of all, when you said there about the Illmatic thing, I've just stopped comparing him to that. It's to the point where it's like, you remember Scratch Magazine had that infamous cover where it was like Nas and Premier announced joint album. I think it was just such a troll by that magazine. I don't even think of Nas in those things anymore. I think this album, I enjoyed the listen. There was some, like you said, The Cure. I thought 27 Summers was banging. I even thought the Blue Benz is a really strong start to it. But am I going to listen to it again? Probably not. I'm probably not. I think there's points in it where I think The Cure, especially if we're talking about The Cure and 10 points, I really like 10 points. But if I'm looking at The Cure, I would say the best part of the whole album is when that little break beat starts, the break starts, and he starts rapping on that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I waiting, to get to this point?
Yeah.
Just make an album of that, mate. Like, just make an album of that. And the thing I find with Nas is he never pushes the boat out lyrically. He's a great MC, of course he is, but he never tries anything new. At least you could say Jay-Z's trying new things on the Electronica album. On this, Nas isn't even trying any new things. And also, like, that's fine, but if you're not going to try any new things, just do what we want, which is you over Premiere, or you over even that little breakbeat thing, Large Pro, or No ID, or even fucking hell, if if the most you can experiment after Kanye is like Madlib, I'd be here for more of that maybe, but even just the content on here, like he's talking about girls and cars and all this, and I'm like, fuck, man, Nas, it's 2020, man. Like, if you could have said anything right now, I don't need it to be about girls. Like, if you could bring me something. I know he has talked about like Black Power and Black empowerment, but I just think there's so much shit you can talk about, and he doesn't do it. And that was, so I'm not sure if I'm going to revisit this too much, if I'm completely honest with you, Ray.
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, some of the stuff you said there, in terms of the comparison with Jay-Z, what did you reckon about them both dropping it? Was it the same day Jay-Z dropped and dropping that?
Oh, yeah. Jigger fucking loves it, doesn't he? It's happened way too many times now for it to be like, yeah, it's jokes in it, it's fine. It genuinely is like, Jigger, man, fuck, man. You just keep doing this. To be fair, Jigger and Pharrell should fucking thank the stars Nas dropped this, because that's fucking awful, that track.
Yeah, I mean, Jigger's verse on that is, I mean, it's decent. It's for, considering
that track's bad, mate.
But it ain't The Cure. The moment you described on The Cure, that was worth listening through the entire album for that moment. Like you said, when the beat switches.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're just like, this is it. This is it. And you know it. And plus, it's one of those shared experiences in hip hop that, like I recognized that, you recognized it, and everyone else listening to this would have been like, yep, that's the moment. That's the moment in the album that you're listening for. And that's the little sign of like, yes, Nas can still bring it the way you want him to bring it. And that's the sign of that.
Yeah, true. Exactly. Those little snippets, but the world doesn't work like that. There's so much good music in 2020. The little snippet ain't going to do it. A few other points on the album, because I don't think we're going to do a review of it, so I'm just going to drop my points to you here, Ray. The Firm, I know a lot of people have been going at Foxy. I don't know if my ears are different or whatever, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate what Foxy was doing. She actually reminded me a little bit of when Jay-Z does his spoken word, almost like just very simple bars. It's very simple, but I didn't hate it. And I was like, right. And AZ, I really enjoyed AZ in the Dre cameo. Like, it was fine. It was fine. It just didn't get me. And the Anderson .Paak cameo, mate, Anderson .Paak on that should have been an Anderson track with a Nas feature, I think. And to the point that I would just want like an Anderson .Paak album sounding like that he does on, I think it's All Bad on this album. And I was like, yeah, this doesn't feel like it should be on this album. It should be an Anderson album. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a decent track, but it just seems kind of out of place somehow.
Yeah, 27 Summers is rewindable. I did enjoy that. I love the Belly reference on Blue Benz. Belly, big up. Need to talk about that film on this pod, mate. We said do that revisit. And my last piece, I mean, I think you may be here with me, Ray, I'm not even sure, but I'm never going to revisit Carve 85 again. Replace Me is another one. And I just have never, ever, ever got the hype around Big Sean. Like, never got it. I don't get it personally. People love him. And he's fine. He's fine. I just don't see myself like going, fucking hell, Big Sean killed that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Wow,
we're agreeing, mate.
I don't know his music well enough to be like positive or negative about it. But I haven't been blown away.
But anyway, that's King's Disease. That's Nas. Ray, have you been listening to anything else recently before we jump into the mailbag? Has there been anything else that's been grabbing your attention?
Yeah, the only other thing, I don't know if it's because you had this at number one on the first one on the Bangers playlist, but Think of the Locks track. There's something about the combo of the Locks with West Side Gun that and just when he drops that, what's that sample? It's not sample, it's just that high pitch Fly God, and then he drop it. It's just there's something about the combination of it that you know what? Because it's taken a long time for me to come around to be like happily nodding my head to this stuff, but they just win you over.
Yeah.
They just win you over every time, don't they?
They do. There we go. Yes.
It's a sick combo.
Come on. That is a banger. And big up the Og Dog who follows on Twitter, because I hadn't heard the Locks yet. And he made a big claim. He said that's one of the best bangers of 2020. So obviously I went into it with a bit of like, oh, okay, yeah, he's got good taste, this lad. So, went in, Fucking hell, he's right, mate.
But even this track as well, they're not overly shouty either as well. It's just, and they, they've all got that same line.
Yeah.
They end each verse with, well, think of the Lux. But whatever, it's a sick track. It's a sick track.
And the DMX feature on that album is fucking sick. Oh man, I just love hearing X again. And I know he's angry. But yeah. Oh.
Yeah, but what other version of X would you want to hear?
Exactly. The Ruff Ryders Chronicles, by the way, have slowly been taking over my life. Big up Ill Will out there. I know he knows what I'm talking about. That, man, Ruff Ryders Chronicles, if you can get your hands on it, just to see where hip hop was in the 90s then, and to see what Ruff Ryders just fucking did a takeover, and the evolution of Swizz Beatz from like being their little nephew who got only one track on the opening to just killing everything. Yeah, man, it's a wicked show. So go check that out. Just on my last piece of music, I really, really enjoyed Marlowe 2, man. The album. Have we talked about Marlowe 2, haven't I?
I think you might have already spoken about it, but it's an album that is worth bringing up again and again and again. That's a ridiculous album.
Yes, Raymond.
It is an absolutely ridiculous album.
Yes, Raymond.
All of that.
The beats generally for me just tend to do. I think there's something in the way they sample, the dusty sound to it. There's that rhyming on future power sources is fucking great. It's just nice to hear some great scratching as well. I haven't heard one in a while, and there's some good stuff on there. And if you do really like that album from Mellow Music Group, go check them out. Crate 808 Bangers playlist is just ridden full of that album. So go check that out as well. You can get it at crate808.com. Go check that. It'll be in the comment section as well. Do check out La Orange's project with Jeremiah J from 2019, I think, called Complicate Your Life with Violence. I've bigged it up before, but I've got to big it up again because he's on he does the Marlowe project as well, and it's just fucking crazy. So yes, that's me, man. But I think it's mailbag time, Ray. Are you ready to go into the mailbag? Should we dip in?
Before we move too far along, I know we've already spoken about The Cure, but I just have to drop this one fucking Nas line that I was like, that's it. He's back. He's back. This is it. It solidifies that, just how big this track is. Oh, I've oversold it now. I have oversold it.
I think you might have overhyped this because I can't remember that.
It's that line, was it? I done been through that shit. I'm still going deeper like I grew a new inch on my dick. I was just loving that one line.
You're so easy to please, Ray.
It's the stuff that entertains me. There we go.
You're so easy to please, mate. So thank you everyone for emailing crate808@gmail.com. Yeah, all the best correspondence we're going to read out. We've got some good ones, man. So on our most ludicrous lyrics, or most crazy, just ridiculous lyrics, I've noticed we say most ludicrous lyrics. Yeah. People out there may think actual ludicrous and send us the most ludicrous lyrics. I was like, nah, I don't want loads of ludicrous lyrics. I want
that's all I hear every time lyrics. You say it. I just like got hose, and that's all that tune just kicks off in my head every time you say the most ludicrous lyrics.
Ties in very nicely to our first most ludicrous lyric from Alex Chick. Big up Alex Chick. Area Codes, which is a ludicrous track. Perpendicular vehicular homicide is a phrase that pops into my head very often, he says. And just think, what does that perpendicular vehicular? Okay, I get the but it has to be perpendicular. I don't know.
Specifically perpendicular, not parallel, because it wouldn't sound as good.
Yeah. Has to be perpendicular. So yes, enjoyed that. He also has another one, and I think more than ludicrous, this is just a great reference. Obi Trice on Adrenaline Rush. I cook up the hot shit like Ainsley Harriott. Woo. Hey, Ainsley Harriott, bro.
Is that?
We're definitely a 90s podcast.
Is that the least hip hop lyric? It might be.
That's got to be on the least.
It's got to be, isn't it?
I was watching a Red Dwarf documentary the other day, which is very least hip hop. Yeah, and Ainsley Harriott was on the Red Dwarf documentary. That's how un-hip hop Ainsley Harriott is. You're thinking about Red Dwarf now, aren't you? I know.
Red Dwarf's pretty hip hop.
What?
Yeah, it is.
It ain't, mate.
This is literally, we've already talking about tearing apart cannabis grow houses, and now you're ripping it out of Red Dwarf.
I love Red Dwarf, by the way. Don't test my knowledge on Red Dwarf, mate. Come on.
And I love cannabis grow houses as well. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
Good work. So Kirk Simmons, sorry if I got that wrong. Hi guys, great job with the podcast. So the most ludicrous lyrics I've ever heard: Lil Wayne, surprise. I'm surprised that Wayne hasn't come up sooner. Dr. Carter, swagger tighter than a yeast infection, fly, go hard like geese erection. What? Hold on, what? So what? Swagger tighter than a yeast infection. That is good. I'm enjoying that line. Fly, go hard, like geese erection. Fly and go hard. There's layers, mate.
There is layers, yeah.
There's layers to what Wayne's doing.
Exactly, yeah. So,
and then this is another subject we asked for people. Most underrated rappers of the 90s, if you have 5. And he dropped his list. Fair play to you, Kirk. Sean Price, number 1. I listened, Ray, to Helter Skelter's Nocturnal album the other day. Good Lord, that is still fucking worth a revisit. It bangs, mate. Soldier's Gone Psycho, Le Fleur, Le Fla, Escocia, I could never get that right, is a fucking timeless. They're both timeless bangers. It's just a wicked album. So Sean Price, number 1, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying Sean Price there. Number 2, Kool Keith, standard. Kool Keith is very underrated. Want to get him on this pod, man? That'd be sick. Check this one, man. I enjoyed this one, Kirk, at number 3, mate. MC8.
Oh,
MC8. Honestly, I think Straight Up Menace was that every time I hear that, I think of me being like 14, 15, watching Menace Society and listening to that soundtrack over and over. And I'm here for the MC8 shout. To be fair, I think I need to listen to more. I listen to more of his later stuff. I need to go back in, man. I need to dig back into the MC8 vault. So Kirk, big up there. And the last 2, I think you're going to be a fan of here, Ray. Big Boy and Sticky Fingers.
Sticky Fingers all day.
Yeah, Sticky's sick.
He's got some ridiculous lines that just, when you're listening back to some of those early Onyx albums as well, like he's got some lines in there. You're like, fucking hell, why is he not spoken about more?
Yeah. Well, we did the Onyx album on the pod. We did a debate with the Onyx versus Hell on Earth versus Speed of Life. Speed of Life by Exhibit. So a few little more like unheralded classics, I think there.
What chance would it have? What chance would any album have against it at the Speed of Life? It's not really.
Fucking here we go.
It's not a fair comparison, really, is it?
So, guys, yes, go dig back in there. If you think there is a comparison, please hit us up. I don't think there is one, but anyway. So, yes, thank you, Kirk. Big up, mate. And Craig Bass. Fair play to you, Craig. Massive fan of the podcast. Big up, bro. Thank you. It's keeping me going during lockdown. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Heard you say you wanted people to email with stories about meeting rappers. I was on holiday in New York in 2010. I was wandering around Times Square one day when I saw none other than R.A. the Rugged Man running around through the crowds of people, and acting like an absolute madman. If you've never met R.A., that probably is exactly what you think he does on a daily basis. It's just R.A. running around just Times Square again, going mad. But
did he actually meet him?
Yeah, check this. At first, I thought that seemed pretty standard behaviour for R.A. the Rugged Man, but as soon as I noticed there was a cameraman following him, it turns out he was filming his new clip, Return of the Renaissance with Hellraiser, or Hellrazar. Sorry, man, I always called him Hellrazar, but I got taken down for calling him Hellrazar the other day. I got to chat to him for a bit, and he was nothing but friendly and happily let me grab a flick. And there it is. He's grabbing a picture with him. I've got a picture with him as well. So fair play, R.A. the Rugged Man with Craig Bass. That's nice, man. I enjoy that. And check out our R.A. episode. He was fucking wicked, man. I appreciate him giving us his time. Anyway, mailbag. There you go. We've got a bit more to come. I'm going to keep drip feeding you this. So people out there, if you enjoyed that, please get in touch with us, crate808@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram or even Facebook, any of those. We want to know, what are the most underrated rappers of the 90s, least hip-hop things you've done, the weirdest place you've met a rapper, the 90s rapper you would let crash on your couch for a weekend, and obviously the most ludicrous lyrics and stuff like that. So yes, people, thank you. Now, mate, Ray, it's time for our interview with Kwame Kwaten and Midnight Marauders. This chat coming up is, yes, it's about Tribe. Yes, it's about Midnight Marauders. But what I loved about this chat, man, was just the general memory lane trip we took back to the 80s and 90s, and especially the Summer of Love in the UK in 88. And he talks about like the resurgence of dance culture as well, and De-Influence, his group, and obviously working with Jay-Z for Wishing on a Star.
But yeah, he goes into, he's done so much.
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite interesting. And then, this album as well, like,
yeah.
When you hear the phrase timeless classic, and then you play what people are referring to, and you're like, well, is it? But this album is a timeless classic, and you put it on, you're like, it still sounds just incredible, doesn't it? So,
and it's just really interesting to hear someone who's a producer, like he's worked with fucking Mick Jagger, Jay-Z, he supported Michael Jackson, man, on his tour and shit. You think he knows, what good fucking production is. So actually, obviously, had to ask him about like Tribe when they came out then and what they did like that was different. So the way he breaks down Q-Tip, and obviously when you think like Q-Tip's now going to probably do some albums with Madlib coming up, it just gets you really excited, man. I was fucking hyped for that. And before we dive in, I have to say as well, I thought it was just really fucking inspirational the way he's talking about Black British music, like promoting that shit, and like the urban music seminar that they've done and stuff like that. It was just a really good chat. So
Yeah.
man, we're not going to spoil any more of it. Let's get into it. Raymond, I'm going to catch you on the flip side, bro.
See you later.
And we're going to talk about Midnight Marauders with Kwame.
Hey, yo, this your boy Foul March, and right now, you are rocking live with the Crate 808 podcast. Enjoy this week's episode, and just remember to subscribe and rate and review. Peace.
Yo, welcome to Crate 808. And today we've got a very special guest with us, a man who's produced and mixed for the likes of Jay-Z, Mick Jagger and Seal, just to name a few. Former member of D-Influence, musician and manager Kwame Kwaten is in the house today. How are you doing, Kwame?
I'm good.
Yeah?
No, well, I'm good now. Exactly.
Yeah, because coronavirus pandemic is obviously out there. We are on lockdown, but yourself, we heard the news that you did actually have coronavirus.
I had corona and I went to hospital and I was on ventilator. Corona is very serious. It's one of those
How
things.
did it start for you, Kwame?
Well, I mean, for me, I just collapsed in my hallway. And my wife called for an ambulance, first of all. And the ambulance people said it was going to take 8 hours to come. And so she said, let's get a cab. So we got a cab, went to the hospital. A&E took one look at me and said, right, put him over there. We're going to find him a room. So they got me a room really locked off. And, they started sort of treating it from there. And it, I was in a really bad way for the first 5-6 days.
Did you have any onset like symptoms beforehand, or did it all come at once?
Yeah. The thing was that by the time I got to hospital, I was already in the second phase of it, but I hadn't realised. I thought I had a cold at first. But this is the thing. I was 5 days at home, 5 days. And I thought, it hasn't really cleared up. The cold normally, you could feel yourself going through it. And this was just not, it was just getting worse.
Were you thinking then that it might be COVID-19?
Yeah, myself and my wife spoke about it one night and we were like, this is it. The thing that's confusing about it is different people get it in different ways. Do you know what I mean? So obviously for me, we all had it, the whole family, but everybody got it in a different way. My son had it. His was probably the least. Then my daughter had it and hers got her asthma, but she was still able to sort of walk about and do stuff. And my wife, her breathing, it got to, but again, she was able to carry on doing what she was doing. You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. With me, it just laid me out. It consumed my body and took over. So temperature went mad. I was just laid out flat, really. Couldn't really move much. Breathing went really shallow. So then the hospital went into ventilation mode. They were like, okay, this is where we're going to go. It gets to a point where, your missus asks the doctor, is everything going to be all right? And the doctor can't answer the question. Yeah, about day 8, it cleared up. It started to clear, basically. But the other thing was that when I got to hospital, on the first day they came in and basically said, right, you've definitely got corona. The second day, they were just like, you've also got pneumonia as well. So it was hard.
Damn.
But do you know what? I came back on the 10th day, came home, and I woke up in my bed.
Mate.
I'm grateful ever since.
Oh, Kwame, man, we're grateful too, man, just to have you here and just talking about it. And wow.
To be honest, I talk about it so that people really take it seriously. I think there is a tendency, because a lot of the time people are like, oh yeah, it's like a cold. Forget what you heard, man. This thing, if you get it, and also for people from Black or Asian backgrounds, if you get it, you are more likely to end up close to intensive care. So just watch it.
Absolutely, man. Well, Kwame, man, we're very, very lucky to, yourself as well and your family, just to be here and to maybe just like look now at life and think, do you know what? It's maybe time to celebrate a bit more. So I appreciate the fact that you even send this message out there to our listeners.
Yeah.
You're the first person that's come on to actually talk about their ordeal. And I really appreciate you being able to do that for us, definitely.
Hey guys, this is Jerobi from A Tribe Called Quest, and you're listening to the Crate 808 podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, crate808.com. Go check it out. Peace.
So, on the tip of celebrating, as this is a 90s rap podcast, you have brought an album to talk about today. And we just want to say thank you for bringing Midnight Marauders by A Tribe Called Quest. Wow, man. I'm ready to talk about this album with you, Kwame. I am ready. I've been bumping this. We have talked about it on the podcast, but I always love hearing someone else's history with a record, someone else's passion, and obviously, you know, your history in the music industry in England and the UK and Europe generally.
Yeah.
But before I do any of that, Kwame, one of the first things we ask every guest who comes on, what's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
My word.
Yeah, sorry.
My word. What a question. Do you know, it's one of the hardest things to answer that because I actually thought to myself, on the one hand, I thought, okay, look for something. And I actually thought to myself, you know what, Kwame, but everything you do is hip hop, man.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Do you know what, Kwame? It's an amazing thing when a culture completely is in your DNA, yourself. Someone who's been in the music industry for so long as yourself, from being in a band to managing to setting up events. This is going to be a nice sort of trip for me generally, just to hear your perspective on Tribe, this album, and also what it meant for the UK scene and for yourself as an artist.
Yeah.
So if I could just jump off and just say, why this album? When I asked, you know, which album would you like to bring on, why was it Midnight Marauders?
I just think, right, many of the people that you have on they're crate diggers. They're like proper hip-hop impresarios, people that are like really buried deep in hip-hop. I am a lot more of I like underground hip-hop, but I'm also a sucker for a really clever commercial hip-hop track. But I love music within hip-hop. So I love it when the sophistication behind the lyrics is matched with sophistication musically. And a lot of the time, especially with 90s hip-hop, some of the more underground tracks were often, mainly because they had to boom in a Jeep and boom in a club, were often distilled so a lot more simple in order for them to be more destructive and direct in a club. So, yeah, my perspective comes from a different one, in that it comes from a person who loves the musical side. And Midnight Marauders as an album just did the damn thing. The musicianship, the choice of samples, the choice of replays, the wealth and depth of where the samples came from.
Yeah.
And it's so well chosen, not too much, not overladen. So from that was what, as an album, drew me in. And also, let's face it, it was one of the albums that ushered in Golden Age, right? So
100%.
It was one of the albums that just went, okay, we are in a very, very, very special time.
Do you remember your journey towards finding the record then? Like, could you tell us how you even got to discover this record or the group, that Tribe Called Quest?
Well, in a way, Tribe you just knew them as being good, right? But then along comes this album and it didn't compromise, but yet was really accessible, really, really, really accessible. And also, you know, the combination Q-Tip and Fife. Again, I don't know if we'll ever repeat that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like having George Best and Ronaldo as your front two players.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's how are you gonna
very true.
How are you gonna top that? And the thing is, a lot of people with Fife, they would be like, well, you know, he's not as good as, and I'd go, no. A good double act, Morecambe and Wise, do you know what I mean? You have one person that's considered the lead and another person that's considered to be the person that hangs back a bit. But Fife could tear you one, man, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
He did not hang out. He did not hang back, did he? He would go in if he was going in.
Totally. And also, you know, some of the people like Bob Power, do you know what I mean? You just think as to have in your engine room at that point. I remember trying to locate him and track him down to do something for us, and he was too busy and whatever. And I was just like, damn, man, this guy. You know, it's just like so heavy, so good, so
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
I know what you mean. They were standard bearers. I think that's the thing. Like, if you were coming out with a new record, Tribe Called Quest were doing this at a level which had kind of set the standard. Fortunately for us as fans and as yourself as a musician, wow, there were a lot of people ready to just step up and try to hit that same level.
I think if you look at Souls of Mischief, Tupac, Run DMC, Mobb Deep, De La, this is all 93.
Yeah. Wu came out at the same time.
Wu-Tang, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is as well, let's be real, Wu-Tang was the dark. Tribe were just light. And they weren't light in a light kind of, don't take them seriously. They were light and they were deep, and it's just great. It's amazing.
When you say that it's an interesting mix to be able to do as a group, to have what you said there about accessibility, which I think is down to their musicianship. Like, you can tell they've been brought up on probably similar stuff to yourself. I mean, very jazzy, but also just musically, like they know how to hit a groove. An interesting thing to be able to do that, and then call like your opening track Steve Biko and have your messaging. Your messaging was so strong. So although it is some, as you said, could consider light, it's definitely not a light album in the fact that it's heavy messaging.
No, totally. Well, the thing is they would drop the messaging. That's the thing. They would drop in things. Now, here's the thing. You have to understand, from my point, my name's Kwame Kwaten, which is a Ghanaian name because my dad was from Ghana. However, my mother was from South Africa, right? So you imagine, these are a hip-hop group that have named their first song Steve Biko, and I am half South African. I'm in straight. I'm like, I'm there. Yeah. Take my money. Take my money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was the situation. And again, there weren't that many rap crews necessarily going and shouting out a political leader from South Africa, even though the state, you know, apartheid as it was and what it stood for obviously the parallels were there as to what was going on in America in the 80s.
Roughly how old were you when this came out then? Were you like in your 20s?
21, 22, something like that.
So this is interesting to me then, because I came to this album after the fact. So I think this album came out when I was at 12, 13, before I really knew about Tribe Called Quest, really. I kind of discovered this album a few years later. For yourself, you've probably formed your identity a little bit in your 20s, a little bit more. What did this album mean to you then? And then if you revisit it now, could you tell me what the album means to you now? Is it the same, or is there something different?
No, quite different. Now, I'll go backwards. So now, it's an album that you stick on that you can play from beginning to end. It makes you grin and reminisce, and it brings back all of the smells, sights, and sounds of the time, and makes you realise that we lived through an incredibly prolific, creative, groundbreaking time in music. Just like what happened in the 60s with music. Because there were certain times, it's even 60s, 70s as music time, it was dynamite. If an elder came up to you and said, but I was around in the 70s, and you would just go, hands down, totally get it. 80s, we can all kind of shrug our shoulders a bit and go, But tail end of 80s, and the fact that hip hop's really started to started to move there, but it's really golden age stuff. You think to yourself, all of those things, right? That's on one side of it. Okay. What was it then to be? Then it had come at a time in the UK where we had really just had this explosion, dance culture, 88, 89, 90.
Summer of Love, yeah.
So we had all had this Summer of Love, etc. So we were wide open, and we were wide open because, as you say, Summer of Love had happened. And in many of the clubs, suddenly, because people were dancing a lot, right? What had happened was that you had your main room and then you had your side rooms. And in your side rooms, often was more the sort of connoisseur, or more the kind of, you know what, hip-hop would be going on, or
interesting
R&B would be going on, or whatever. So in your main room, you had your house, okay? But in those side rooms, you had this whole basically concentrated black music was going on in those. Because all good rave promoters understood it still was about the music. It still was about how good DJs were that were playing at a particular place. It wasn't just about the drugs and the blow and whatever. It was about
the music.
People playing special songs at special times. So that's what you would find. And to me, then it came at just past that point, just past that summer of, just past all of that. You had a few years and then this explosion of hip hop. And to me, it's no surprise as well that a lot of the hip hop then in that golden age was psychedelic influenced. Yeah. So people were ripping songs from the 70s that were, as we know, 70s was this drug-filled time with mad experimentation with music. So people were taking, samples from there, adding them to their music, but putting these thunderous beats behind it. And then you had the technology of the time. There's this merry meeting, the SP1200, drum machine. Had also come along and meant that hip-hop now had this spine, this box that basically understood. It was almost like a central nervous system.
That's amazing.
For hip-hop. So you had that as well.
Yeah.
Then again, all of that just started to influence mainstream culture. Where before it had been a thing that came, maybe had a couple of movies, your Wild Stars, your Blow, and this and that, and then disappeared. And then pop would take over. And then it'd come again, show its face again, and then disappear.
That's interesting.
And then pop would take over. But from that early 90s onwards, it was like, no. We are mainstream culture. And then when you look at the Run DMCs, things like, the Adidas deal, all of that, brands suddenly going, actually, we're going to buy into that instead.
Yeah.
So you were literally high street. So it had moved from being this kind of boutique and maybe at its core supported by black fans or white fans that understood black music. It had moved from there onto literally mainstream.
That's an interesting period to be around in the culture, to see it sporadically pop up and then it to become the mainstay. It's an incredible thing. I mean, this album was right in the mix of that as well.
Hey, it's Steve Rifkin from Loud Records. You're rocking with the Crate 808 podcast. Spread the word. These guys are dope. The questions they ask and the interview is amazing. Enjoy yourself, be safe, and be healthy.
If you were looking at this album now, then it's beautifully put what it meant to you there and what it meant to you now. If we dig into the nitty-gritty of the album, though, if we're looking at the tracks and we're looking at Tip and Fife and all these amazing individuals to make up this group, and Jerobe's in the mix, and Ali Shaheed Muhammad is in there. Q-Tip, incredible producer. As a musician and someone with an artistic outlook on this, what did he bring at that time that was kind of different to what was already around in the scene? Be it even outside of hip hop, was there something about him that you thought that was quite wow? Not seen that before.
Yeah, I just think he's a guy that is. Rap is lyrical dexterity, okay? But it's being able to land on a beat, twist your rhythm in a particular way. It's all of those things. And I don't know, I just think that I actually think he's quite underrated.
You reckon?
Q-Tip. Yeah, because I think, say for instance, Rakim, Rakim, people understand as a person that had great flow and also lyrically would twist your mind in all manner of directions. Okay. But I think that with Q-Tip, he had great flow, but he was really, really musical. Like really, really, really musical in a way that I think that musicians, rather than straight rap, people that, say for instance, people that are more drawn to what's happening lyrically within rap, musicians might not pay as much attention to what's being said, but the movement, the timing, the bounce, they would pay big attention. To them, some of the things that he does is akin to a saxophonist. They always used to say that about, what's her name, Lena Horne, didn't they? They would say how she sang was like some kind of clarinet. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. It's a different kind of appreciation as well as what he was doing lyrically.
So that's an interesting thing. Now I just want to get a bit of an insight into like your tastes and what really kind of ticks your boxes. Because usually when someone comes on here, I like to ask them about their top 5 MCs. I actually would like to ask you about your top 5 producers, because I think as a musician, and you know what? They don't even have to be rap. They don't even have to be hip hop.
No, okay.
Because as someone who's been in the game, and obviously, you know, you've been in the industry as well and worked with the greats. Is there like a list of short lists that you could say, God, you know, those 5 have just been amazing? Could you do that?
Okay.
I know I'm putting you into a corner.
I would say, okay, let me have a little think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I would say Dr. Dre for sure.
Okay, big out the gates.
Quincy Jones for sure.
100%, yeah.
Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards from Chic for sure. For sure. Rick Rubin, it's got to be up there.
Interesting shout, Rick Rubin. Okay.
Yeah, he's got to be up there. It's got to be up there.
Shaped a whole era, really, around his sound.
Yeah, it's got to be up there. Let me just think. God.
You've got one spot left, so
in my mind.
Yeah, so in one spot.
I mean, I think one that a lot of people would leave off or wouldn't has got George Martin.
Okay. Well, I mean, wow. He went on to basically do the most successful band of all time, right? So
yeah, I would ask for one more.
Okay.
I would say Arif Mardin.
Arif Mardin, could you school me on Arif Mardin a little bit?
Wow. Okay, so you're going Phil Collins to Hall & Oates to the Bee Gees to Culture Club to Shaka Khan.
Right. Wow.
He was in amongst the whole Atlantic Records thing, basically.
Right.
I had tremendous respect for him as a producer, without a doubt.
I'm going to, you know what? Now I need to dip into that. Just the names you've listed, it feels like on a lockdown situation, that is kind of great music to listen to right now. So I'm in on that.
Yeah.
Yes, you're rocking with the best. This is the one and only Just Blaze. Right now, you're checking out the Crate 808 podcast. Remember to hit up crate808.com, like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Peace.
Before we get into more categories about the album itself, I just wanted to pick your brains a little bit on your history in the industry and obviously the influence. And obviously, it seems like you have quite a lot of tapestry to your career.
Yeah.
Let's start with the influence, because
go ahead.
Well, I mean, where do you start? Like, first of all, you guys were like performing with the likes of James Brown and Michael Jackson and Prince, and just those names alone are incredible. Yeah. Have you any stories and great memories for those days when you were doing that?
Well, I mean, it's funny. We all of us, we still meet, and you know, we actually did a gig last year. We did a gig the year before that as well. You know, sometimes we'll just come out and just do one. Do you know what I mean?
It's amazing.
But all of us, you know, Ed's a lawyer now, music business lawyer, and Sarah's got her own hair empire, you know, that she deals with, and
brilliant. Very
successful. And I just carried on in the music business. But stories from then, my word. Okay, well, I always remember thinking I should have had a journal, because it would have really made some good reading. It was a mad old time for us. We went from, as a band, we just decided that we weren't going to go for a major deal first. We were just going to go for an indie. So we put a record out, a track called I'm the One, had a track called The Classic on the B-side. And I remember standing on Diable Street in the centre of London, and it had 2 record stores on it. And we just gave out records to any DJs that were, because it was 2 record stores. The DJs would come out and we'd look and we'd see if they looked like real DJs, and then we might put one in their hand. And it just so happened that one of those DJs was a DJ that was going to be was DJing on Capital Radio that night. A certain Mr. Tim Westwood, who we had given him a soul record, essentially, street soul records, which was, our stuff had a heavy undercarriage, but we had, with, you know, Sarah Ann Webb as a lead singer, and she's a great vocalist. He just decided to play it on his show. We then got a call from Acid Jazz Records saying, they were like, look, we want to put it out.
That's amazing.
And so we were just like, all right, fine. We went, struck a deal with them just for 2 singles or 2 songs, and just put the thing out. And that was it. That was how it happened.
That's amazing.
We put I'm the One out, and on DJ charts. It went to number 1. And from there, it just, after there, because we had fulfilled that part of that contract, Atlantic Records heard that we were free and were like, listen, we're just starting a new label called East West Records America. Do you want to be on it? And we were like, yeah, all right, let's do it. So we flew over to New York, got our lawyer to sort everything out, signed a deal in New York. And I've still got a picture of Steve, one of our band members, with the check on his head. Yeah. So yeah, we went and we just did it, and that was it. From there, it was get on with the album. The next single we put out was a track called Good Lover, and Good Lover really blasted the hole on radio. I mean, it did really, really well. And from there, a lot of different acts were basically saying, hold on a minute, who's the band, but who produced it?
Wow.
And we had produced our own records. So then they were like, okay, hold on a second. Why don't you come and produce one track for me?
Yeah.
So that's what started to happen. So we were doing our second album, putting that together. It obviously in between, I of course have skipped over some fairly major events. Yes, we supported Michael Jackson on his Dangerous tour, which obviously we were playing to, 70, 80, 90, 100,000 people in a night.
That's crazy.
And again, we were his only support as well. So it was us for an hour and then Michael Jackson.
Jesus Christ, man. Oof.
So we did that tour. Then from there, we then did Prince. And then from there, we did, James Brown, and In Vogue as well. We supported him.
Wow.
So it was a hell of a time.
Yeah.
As we say, we're probably one of the only groups in the world to have supported the big three, and that's Prince, Michael Jackson, and James Brown.
Yeah. I was going to say, I can't imagine that. That's an incredible hat trick. It's an incredible hat trick.
So from doing those gigs, what really had happened, we didn't realize it, but in a way, it was excellent schooling for us as a live band. So then in 95, 96, we go on to win Best British Black Music Band.
Amazing.
So Black Music Awards, we win Best Band, Best Live Act, sorry. We settle into recording our second album. We did a tour of South America first.
Okay.
We did 12 dates in Brazil, right the way across Brazil, all the way up to the Amazon, And then we did Colombia as well, played there, and then came back. From us doing that, that changed our rhythmic perspective.
Yeah.
Obviously, that then came into our record, really. So Prayer for Unity then comes out. Doesn't really light up the charts or anything. Did all right. We had a kind of really tight sort of, the fan base that were really into us just, bought the record. And we were like, all right, cool. But what then started to happen, I guess, was that we production-wise, we were producing more and more high-profile people. And we had some advice while we were over in the States to start our own production company. So we started Freak Street as a label with a guy called Paul Kennedy. We started Freak Street as a label. And the first 3 signings, the first signing was Elizabeth Troy. The next signing was Shauna Scoffrey. And the next signing was Shola Ama.
Wow.
And Shola was just like a rocket.
Yeah.
We produced this track, You Might Need Somebody, and it just flew. 1.5 million sales.
That's crazy. She was everywhere. That was true,
she was all over the place. So that just flew.
I heard some stories about how you discovered Shola.
That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
Please tell the listeners. I'd love to hear this again.
You see, these things, you can't make them up because they're fleeting. If you're not alert to it, you miss it. Or if I'd been wearing headphones that day, I would have missed it.
That's mad. Yeah.
I was at Hammersmith. I was only at Hammersmith because if you're trying to get to Turnham Green, if you take the wrong line, so for instance, you can get there either by District or by Piccadilly line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Both of them are marked to go to Turnham Green. But if you take one at a particular time of day, it will go straight past that station. So my meeting was at Turnham Green. I'd gone Hammersmith and then gone Chiswick Park, literally gone straight the way past Turnham Green. So I thought, what? So then I thought, right, I'll get on the other side and see if I can come back and whatever. I get on the other side, still, it goes whizzes past Turnham Green. So I'm like, damn, I'm going to be really late for this meeting. I thought, right, let me get out and get a cab. Now, we're in 95. I'm a black guy. I got dreads. My dreads are halfway down my back.
Yeah.
I'm going to the taxi rank at Hammersmith.
Yeah.
The first cab rolls up, sees me, drives on. Second cab rolls up, sees me, drives on. Third cab rolls up, sees me, drives on. And as in, when I say drives on, I mean they give you a look that you used to get in the 90s, which was, nah, mate, you're not coming in this cab.
Jesus.
And that was it. So I see this fourth cab coming towards me, and it slows down, and I thought, it's going to let me in. And it just went off again. And I thought, right, it's not my day here.
Yeah.
So I turn around, I'm vexed. I go into the tube station and I'm at the ticket office, and I just hear this voice behind me just humming. And I just remember thinking, it was really odd feeling. I remember thinking, it's like somebody whispering in my ear, just go, 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 go get it. And I was just like, what? I was thinking, what's going on? So I just went, got a ticket. I ran onto the wrong platform first, and then I ran onto the next platform I just see, and this one's still wrong. And I go, third one, I see these three girls at the end. And so I said, which one are you three? Because don't forget, I hadn't seen her.
Yeah, you'd only heard her.
I'd only heard her. So I was like, which one are you three girls? Were you any of you three girls singing? And they said, yeah, it's this girl here. So I looked, and it's this girl. She's quite short. And I was like, so you? They were like, yeah, it's her. So I said, all right. I said, sing me another of your songs. She was like, what do you mean? I said, sing me another of your songs. Any songs. So she said, can I sing a cover? I said, yeah. So she sings I Want to Be Down by Brandy.
Oh, what a tune.
But she sings it note perfect. And I'm looking at this girl, I'm thinking to myself, she cannot be older than 17 years old. So I'm like, you're singing this note perfect. And her tone, I remember thinking, your tone is ridiculous. It's so good. So then I was like, right, okay, hold on. I said, sing me another one. Because I thought, maybe that's a flute. So then she sings Rufus and Shaka Khan's Sweet Thing, which anybody that's a vocalist will know that's a hard song to sing. She sings it faultless. So at this point now, I'm like, okay, listen, here's the number, phone it. I said, I'm in a band called The Influence. And she said, I remember you lot. I was like, why? She said, I saw you supporting Michael Jackson.
Oh, wow.
So she's like, okay, cool. You're legit. I was like, yeah. She's like, right. So she called me in a week, came down to the studio. We did a vocal test with her just to check that her voice was all right and everything. She came in, she sang, she was good. Real good. And we just took it from there. Paul Kennedy set up a couple of showcases, one of which was at the Jazz Cafe. That night, she just performed out of her skin. And the guy from Warner Brothers was in the audience, and Mickey D. And he just said, yeah, he goes, Kwame, yeah, we're going to do this.
That's wicked.
And that was it. So, yeah.
That's incredible. Fair play on that tube ride. I'm not getting...
Mate, that is how it happened. And that's why I'm like, you know what? I always say racism has made me a lot of money. So I'm not grumbling.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, I do grumble at times, but I'm saying it's weird, the very thing, the very downer that pushed me in there. Actually, in the end, we turned it into something. Yeah, but that's life, right?
It is, and that's
adversity.
Exactly, twist. And that spark. That like little spark that happens in life, very rarely happens, but it does happen. Just reminds me of when Q-Tip found Mobb Deep, and like Mobb Deep were outside the building, and the Q-Tip was going in, and they just grabbed him, and he said, "Let me listen to your stuff," and that was it. And you think, wow, that's a whole kind of legacy was born. And Shola to this day, she's a highly regarded singer. Do you know what I mean?
I've been very fortunate to have been right place, right time with various things. Tom Jones, really, really similar. I was out. He himself and two of his record company members was sat in the corner. And one of the record company guys really liked the Shola records, sees me, comes up to me, and he says, we've got Tom Jones in the corner. Do you want to come and meet him? I was like, it's Tom Jones. Of course I do. So we go into the corner and we just start chatting. And he's like, so tell me about yourself. What you've been doing? And so I tell him, and I did, and then I get to the fact, I said, yeah, we did the Shola record. You might need somebody. And he was like, whoa. Okay. He's like, do you want to come and do something for me? We were like, I said, yeah. He said, we're putting this album together. He goes, I don't know what's going to happen with it, but the album's called Duets.
Oh.
And of course, that album just went on to do, I think it was like 4.5 million copies. It was mad. And we had a track on it. So it was crazy.
That's crazy.
Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates, working with him.
Wow.
Mad.
How was that?
Again, crazy. He invites us to his house.
Oh, wow.
He goes and he sits behind the piano and he says, what do you want to hear? And I'm like, I'm a mad Hall & Oates fan. So I'm like, Sarah Smile, he starts playing it.
Wow.
He's like, you want to hear anything else? You know, you're like, whatever. I can't go for that. He's like, yeah. All right.
Jesus.
Yeah, he just starts playing. You're
Jesus,
like, I was like, pinch me, man, you know? Ultra Nate, working with her in the 90s. She'd obviously done really well on the dance tip. We always loved working with her. The Influence loved working with her. We had tracks on, I think, 3 or 4 of her albums.
Wow, okay.
Obviously, Jay-Z, yes, of course. I mean, Wishing on a Star is amazing to do. I mean...
I love that song.
Yeah, you know, it's one of them. It's like, the funny thing about it was not his favourite at all.
So what was the story there then?
He wasn't over enamoured with it. Really, what happened was the record label, Northwest Side, well, it's no secret that like a lot of artists don't necessarily like their hit records. Do you know what I mean? They don't necessarily get them in the way that the public does.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about being a producer. You are the bridge between the artist and their artisticness.
That's it.
And the public. You are literally, you have one leg in one camp and another leg in another.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So our thing was we make this as big as possible. So we get in the original singer of Wishing on a Star. We get in string section. We replay a classic, but just add a slight hip-hop sensibility when it came to the drums.
Yeah.
And then we slot in Jay's vocals in the verses. And it just worked.
Were you there when Jay was spitting that in the booth?
No, not at all. That's the craziest thing. It's like Trackmasters sent us the vocal because they had done a version of it, which, of course, no one hardly hears now, but they had done a version of it. And we were like, nah, that's not how to do it.
Yeah.
We were like, nah. With this, you've got to go for it. You've got to make it big. You've got to make it epic. And that was our thing. Our thing was make it epic. And Ed Baden-Powell and Steve Hussey, in terms of string arrangement, the two of them as a combination are just ridiculous. You know, they're just so talented. Steve Marston, you know, in terms of all things flute and horns and whatever, he was great. In the Influence production, there was a lot of really, really musical people. You know,
that's the thing about that song, which is, as a hip hop head who, you know, you like your underground, you like your Puffies and you like your Biggies and your Pac as well. I remember hearing that Wish Upon a Star and I'm thinking, oh wow, I've never heard Jay-Z like that before.
That was totally the idea. The idea was, you've never heard him like this before.
Yeah.
It was, we were bringing a sophistication to his swag.
That's,
you know,
exactly it.
That was the thing. It's like, obviously since then, Jay-Z's gone on to do huge performances with orchestral backing.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's nothing now. But then it was very, very new.
Absolutely.
It's very new.
Absolutely. Who'd have thought, man? 20 years later, you look at it, you think, oh yeah, that actually is what Jay-Z, Nas and Dre and everyone do that now.
Yeah, totally. It's a thing.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Absolutely.
So from all of that, we then go into production, producing people. We obviously had the huge success with the Shola record and the next Shola record, which weirdly didn't do as well in the UK, but did incredibly well in France and the rest of Europe.
Yeah. Oh,
so
okay.
that meant she was on the road and touring there and the rest of it. So there was all of that.
Amazing.
We did a few weeks of backroom for Trevor Horn on the Seal record. So that was a real education for us because Trevor Horn's like a master producer. To be real, Trevor Horn should also be in that top producers list.
Yeah.
My top 5, which is looking more like a top 8, but he should definitely be in there as well.
Yeah.
Went on to finish our 3rd album, and then I guess our cycle came to a close. Everybody by then was a little burnt out. We kind of were like, all right, everybody go off and do their own things, and then that just carried on. By 97, 98, 99, we'd formed this thing called the Urban Music Seminar, which went on to become a really huge event.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which was, he just used to speak about British urban music as being a thing that was on the horizon and was about to come, which obviously at the time, a lot of, you know, major labels did not think that was capable of happening.
What year was that?
That was 97 was when we first started doing that. We were still producing and everything then. But 97 was when we did the first one. And the first one, 500 people came to. By the time we'd done the last one, it was sponsored by Rockefeller. So Jay-Z's label was sponsoring it. And 14,000 people were coming to it over a weekend. This was in 2004, 2005.
That's crazy.
So it reached that kind of level. It's huge. It's massive.
Was it Dame Dash there as well? I think Dame Dash turned up to
yeah. We had all sorts. We had Destiny's Child. We had Matthew Knowles, obviously Destiny's Child's dad. We had, obviously, Dame Dash, Rockefeller. Kanye West came and opened our press day.
Wow, that's incredible.
And the thing was, we were matching American acts, but we were Brit heavy. So we were completely the reverse of quite a lot of the shows at the time. You know, our thing was, we made the Brits the lead and the Americans part of the supporting cast.
That's incredible.
So More Fire Crew, Lethal B, Miss Dynamite, Beverly Knight, all of these acts that we felt were being slightly sidelined really by mainstream. We were like, do you know what? They're main stage for us. Because the idea was to talk about British black music and the lovers of British black music, but talk about it from the business end. And the idea was, by talking about it, what you would do is you'd encourage the next wave of music business entrepreneurs from the British black music world. And that was our thing, right? So our thing was that, and it worked.
Yeah, and I love that.
You know, many of the people that were sat in the audience, you know, you look, Tiny Temper's manager was sat in the audience at the Urban Music Seminar. Jamie Binns, manager of Paloma Faith, Swedish House Mafia.
Wow.
Sat in the audience at the Urban Music Seminar.
Yeah.
Learning, right? And many others. So that was there. And then obviously we had a 4-year break, and then we started the Ultimate Seminar, which still runs today. So the Ultimate Seminar we started, and we're at Westminster University. We hold it there. And it's the same thing. People come, they talk about the music industry. Our cause is slightly different because our thing was originally with the Urban Music Seminar was revealing the layers of British black music to the public, talking about it, stimulating good business discussion, good business practice as well.
Yeah.
Because in a nutshell, what was going on, where a lot of acts were coming, they were making records, but they were getting totally stitched up on contracts.
Yeah, that's it.
So our thing was, you know what, we're going to put music business lawyers, music business accountants on panels to address stuff in real time. So you could literally put your hand up in the audience and get £250 advice for free, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing. So 2005, the Urban Music Seminar finishes. From 2005 to 2010, black music starts to hit the mainstream. So the cause is different. So our thing was, do you know what? There's still a point in educating people about the music business. So we changed the name to the Ultimate Seminar and widened its brief. And that's done really, really well. And, you know, it's sponsored now, which is bananas, but true, is now sponsored by all of the major record labels.
That's amazing. That's incredible. I mean, if we're pivoting back to the album, because there's a lot of things you've said there that kind of make this album a bit more, I can see now. I can see why you would love this album, because you span quite a lot of different genres in what you've talked about. From Tom Jones to Prince to Michael Jackson, you don't mind that pop sensibility if it's done well. On that tip then, for this album, for Midnight Marauders, what would you think has aged the best from this album? Like looking at it now.
Aged the best, purely because I love the track so much. Electric Relaxation.
What a track. What a track. Is that still your most rewindable? Do you still rewind that more than most?
Yeah, it's a work of art as a song.
You could easily make the argument, I think, for this album to be one of the most perfect hip-hop albums, I think.
Yeah.
And that kind of encapsulates the mood. That track you've said there really encapsulates the whole spirit of this album. I mean, when I look at my most rewindables, it may be like Oh My God, which is like very much a time machine for me. It's amazing how a lot of these tracks, like even what you've just said there, they are very, very much like a time machine. They take you back.
Oh, yeah.
But they're so fresh. They still sound so good. And you think, wow, like the drums, you know, everything, it still the production values are very, very high. And I think that helps the timelessness of it. If you had a hidden gem on this album, Kwame, what would you think is the track on this album that maybe people don't give its due? a little bit?
God Lives Through.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Just because, it's there. It's at the end. That song forms part of it's almost like the journey of their last album into this.
Yeah.
It joins it perfectly.
That's interesting. Yeah, it does.
So for me, that was its job, and its job really, really well done.
Do you think that was in their mind? Do you reckon that's, mind you, would you put it past them, really?
I don't know why. I think it might have been. You know how it is? It's like many of the tracks on Midnight Marauders are a clear step up from the last album. If you were a fan of the last album and then you're walking into this one, that is what this does.
Yeah, it's a nice evolutionary step for them. I like that one. I was listening to it again today, and that track is still, it's kind of one of them that I don't sit down with it too much, but I think I need to now. Now you said that, I think I should listen to it with those kind of ears.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, okay, I like that. Do you have, again, you've seen so many different artists come out in the last 20 years or so. If I told you had to put a non-90s rapper or artist of some sort on this album, but they can't be from the 90s, who would you go for and why?
Non-90s? My word. Kendrick.
Yeah. I had a sneaky feeling you were going to say Kendrick.
Yeah.
Did you hear the latest Tribe album, Thank You For Your Service?
Do you know what? I don't think I did.
I think, Kwame, you may enjoy that because it is very naturally extended for something like Midnight Marauders. It's not the same, not at all. You can't really do the same. But there's something about the feeling of this album that is in that. And Kendrick is in the new one. And yeah, once you said Kendrick, it just naturally made me think, I'm so glad that they got to work with him. It kind of gives you that kind of feeling of, wow, Tribe can work at any time. Tribe could work in 10 years from now. They probably could still work. I don't know if that's to do with the samples they use, or I don't know, because jazz is never going to go away, is it? Jazz is always going to be around.
I lie. I have heard it. What I haven't done is I haven't listened to it again and again and again and again.
Even musically, even with the production on it, it's kind of interesting to see where Q-Tip is now. And obviously, we've heard a few rumblings of new music he'll be bringing out soon. But just hearing that again and thinking, wow, just brilliant to hear an artist and someone who's grown and is still kind of bringing stuff I've not heard before. And it's great. It's a beautiful thing. If we were going to ask you then about, we have a category called Feature Trinity, which is essentially, we end up talking about so many 90s albums, and features were a very big thing, and they still are a very big thing, but I think back then they were very, very big. Like if you had a guest rapper on, it could really make or break them. And we have the same three names kind of pop up. So what we usually do is say, we have a Feature Trinity. If you could put one of these rappers on this album, which one would it be and why? So, Busta Rhymes, Method Man, or Nas? Nas. Okay. Look at that. So quick as well. You've really thought about this.
Yeah, Nas, definitely.
Yeah.
Mainly because Method Man to me would bring more of what they already have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would bring more of what they already have. However, Nas, he's coming from a different flow, a different this, a different that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. And we've talked about samples and stuff like that. Is there anything on here that you thought, wow, what a great sample to use? Was there one that sticks out to you to this day?
Again, I mean, it's terrible because it sounds as though I am stuck on this tune. But again, Electric Relaxation. The sample used, if I remember rightly, I think it's a replay.
Okay.
I don't think it is a straight sample. I think it's a replay.
So when you say replay, what do you mean in terms for people who may not know?
Okay, a replay is you've got the sample, right? And a sample will come to you often and it will be the whole track, yeah?
Right.
So it will be drums, bass, singing, guitar, this, that, whatever. But you might only want the drums and the bass.
Yeah.
And you might want to put a different guitar on it. And you might want to put a different, more modern sounding horns section on it.
Right.
So what you do,
I see,
if you are so musically inclined, is you listen to it and you get musicians in that can literally replicate the sample. So play it just as good.
Right.
Okay. and you record them. So, for instance, with Wishing on a Star, lots of people were like, yeah, that's a sample from that original tune, yeah? And we go, no. It was replayed. We got musicians to replay the whole thing.
And that gives it some life.
The quality of sound is that much more hi-fi. It's that much more, you can separate, get better bottom ends, you can get better tops, you can get better this, better. You're not at the mercy of just the sample. However, having said that, sometimes nothing will sound as good as a sample.
What a weird conundrum. What a weird paradox, right?
Sometimes nothing sounds as good as sample. But I think if you've got a good enough programmer, then And obviously Electric Relaxation, Ronnie Foster's Mystic Brew. There you go.
Ooh.
So Electric Relaxation is just the piece of music that they borrowed from was a spot on choice, and they twisted it and brought it into something new, which is the essence of hip hop.
Exactly.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is DJ Premier, and you're checking out the Crates 808 podcast. I put an S on it because there's more than one record in the crate, you know what I'm saying? So that's how we dig, that's how we play, and that's what real DJs do. You heard? That's why it goes down. We out here.
So we're talking about the essence of hip hop. We're talking tribe, but just broaden it out a little bit. I'd love to know your idea on the 90s generally. So I have a few questions here for you about the 90s before we finish up, man. First of all, if you could, right, have been a fly on the wall on any studio session in 90s hip-hop, which one and why?
Ooh, now what you said there, that's a big, big, big thing. There really is.
There's so many, isn't
there? I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, what would you do? I don't know. I think the most obvious. Okay, from a producer standpoint, right? Pete Rock, you would love to sit in on the back of. You would just love to sit in on the back of the stuff that he was involved in, etc.
Yeah, Troy. What a track.
mean, exactly. They reminisce over you. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Now there's a timeless song. There is something that will live on forever. That track. Love that track.
Nas, about 1994, would have loved to have been in the studio around there.
So many amazing producers on that album as well.
LL Cool J, definitely.
Okay.
Don't forget, I've got Pop Sensibility, remember?
For sure.
But really, the number one is a Notorious B.I.G.
Oh, man. You've got me there because he's one of my top five. So I...
And Notorious B.I.G., right, on the one side, and then on the West Coast, Dr. Dre. Sure. To have been around in that, bloody hell, I mean.
It was magical. Yeah. Magical times, man. If you were looking at the 90s and looking at us now and thinking back, would you say there's any lessons we could learn or stuff that you think we could have brought from the 90s to now in hip-hop generally? Or do you think that time is done and we're in a new place now?
No. I think that almost like, if you listen to Kendrick, he's almost like a son of the 90s.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
He's taken the golden age and moved it on to where he is now. It can't be the same because it's been. And the nature of hip hop is about the new. It's about the new, but it's the level of excitement, isn't it, that you're after, and the sheer wonder. And also, as I said, we had that amazing marrying of technology with the drum machine SP1200s happening and sampling happening just at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That crossed with great MCs. So that time we'll never have again. We'll have something different. And, I saw Kendrick Lamar play and I was blown away. I thought it was bloody amazing. I think there's a lot still to come. I'm definitely not one of these types that's like, all new stuff is rubbish. I'm so not that, because there's always going to be something that's going to come along and kick our asses.
Absolutely.
And you just, all you have to do is just wait for long enough. And then when it comes, recognize it.
Yeah. And in that sense, then, do you think there's anyone or any artist nowadays, UK or US, whichever, that kind of channel the same vibe as Tribe Called Quest? Is there anyone now that you look at and think, yeah, I can sort of see that? Or do you think that might come? That may come?
I used to think that there was a band. What were they signed to? Let me just think. They were signed, they began with an H, and there was 3 of them. They were produced by a producer called Jake Milner.
Okay. Jake Milner.
Mm-hmm. Can I remember what the name of the band was?
I can look it up right now.
Yeah, Jake Milner. I'm just trying to remember. Hawk House. And I just remember thinking, now this lot potential, but they broke up, bless them.
Yeah, I love that energy you get when you first hear a new band like that. That's great.
Yeah, I remember thinking there's really something going on here with this band. But yeah, they were just look them up. They've got, what was the track called? Chill Pill.
Chill Pill. Okay. It's Kwame, man. You've enlightened us. You've enlightened me, and I'm sure the listeners in this whole conversation. Just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for bringing Tribe on. Thank you for your time, if anything. Like, to give us this much time is an honour, mate. It's very much an honour.
Listen, mate, it was great. Good doing.
Just want to say, Tribe, this album, it is already in Crates 808. But like I said at the front, it's always nice to revisit it with a fresh voice. And you've definitely brought that. It's quite nice to hear that. What's the next step for yourself?
I always like the idea of returning to... So I always like the idea of writing again. Music. So I always like the idea of doing that again if I get time. The thing is now, obviously, I'm now a trustee of the Mobos. I'm on the board. I'm on the diversity board of the Brits. I'm co-chair of the diversity committee of the Brits. I'm for the Music Managers Forum, which looks after the interests of 700 of the UK's, but 800 of the UK's managers. I'm vice chair. So there's a lot right now going on. Yeah. As well as that, I've got my own management company. I've got my own music consultancy company. You know,
I mean, it's a fascinating thing to think of yourself and think, fair play, man. Fair play championing this culture that may not have got its due. I mean, you were a little bit older than I am, so I remember British music, I don't know, Linda David Hall, people like that you would listen to back in the day. They'd always, they'd be in the charts. But growing up, and especially as a hip-hop fan, because UK hip-hop was a lot more underground.
Oh, yeah.
And to see where we're at now, I just want to say thank you, man, for going out there and championing it and making sure that these people, learn the industry, learn what's going on, because you hear so many things, especially 90s hip-hop, of people who needed
Oh, please, man. That was half of the problem back then. Half the problem, it wasn't that we weren't having sort of stars or star whatevers. The problem was that people couldn't keep hold of their money. And they couldn't keep hold of their money because they had, a contract that looked like a sieve. Do you know what I mean? As money was, the money was coming out of every orifice. And that's half the problem. Or they weren't money savvy on the way into it, so that's the thing. And it was like, do you know what? I mean, part of it came from, I remember us as a band, there was loads of stuff that we didn't know. So really, when it came to 7 years on, it was that thing of, we're not going to let this happen to somebody else. It doesn't matter if we've had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
For instance, look at what Dummy, Tiny Temper's manager, has done with him. Tiny Temper is still one of the most successful UK rappers. He still performs all of the way across Europe, still tours, still draws huge crowds. Just because at the moment in the UK, he's not in the UK charts, he has a whole other existence. To me, the job that Dummy and his team and Tiny, don't forget, Tiny, listen, even when it comes to fashion, when it comes to, Disturbing London as a brand, when it comes to all of those things, they've kept hold of the money. Yeah. And then they've been able, as a result, to now sign acts.
Yeah.
They've got a publishing company. I think one of the producers is writing hits for Notes or co-writing for Notes. This is what I'm talking about. It's like there's ways to spread what you do financially to build a proper career for yourself, as opposed to flash in the pan. Oh my word, I had a hit and then I'm gone.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, this is for any artists, for any listeners out there who are rappers or artists generally. Man, this is it. Just get some notes from Kwame and the stuff he does, and hopefully it puts you a little bit more on the right road. And for that, mate, I thank you. I thank you for bringing on Tribe. Before you do leave us, though, and go about your day, I would love to know, what's the last great piece of music you heard? So it could be old, could be new, but just the last great piece of music.
Oh, man, let me just think.
For sure.
Tame Impala.
Nice. The new album?
Yeah.
Incredible. Space rock.
Yeah, Tame Impala. And again, I think it's essential. If you're a hip-hop producer, go listen to that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, they're in that realm. Travis Scott, they've done a few things, haven't they? Okay, I like it. So Kwame, thank you again, man. And yeah, hopefully we'll speak to you soon. But if not, please stay safe.
Yeah,
hopefully
man.
all the love to the family and big up.
Listen,
man. Thank you very much.
Look after yourself and everybody stay safe.
Peace, bro.